Surprising to think that this isn't the darkest forest we've been to, Astrid said. Claire looked at Astrid and then to Frida. Frida eyed Claire and then nodded. Hearing that, Claire's eyes widened in surprise. We've been to one forest that made me think it was haunted, Astrid said, laughing at the memory. A haunted forest? Hannah asked in amazement. Shaking her head, Astrid explained, It wasn't actually haunted. It just made you think that it was, by the lack of light that penetrated the canopy. There was also the perpetual mist coming out of the ground, Frida reminded Astrid, grinning. Astrid laughed, clapping her hands together. You're right. I forgot about that. Looking at Claire, she spread out her hands like she was painting a picture. There was a layer of mist up to our knees, and it made it difficult to spot any dips in the terrain or even small monsters. Turning his head slightly, Tommy asked, Which portal was this place at? I don't ever recall hearing about that place. I doubt you would. We had to trek a week outside the city that we entered. Astrid grinned at Tommy. Job? Tommy asked. Nope, Astrid shook her head. We were just exploring and trying to see what we could find. There wasn't much aside from the occasional village that had only a handful of people living in them. We didn't explore too deep, considering we were getting dizzy, Frida said. When Abby looked at the two women, she had an eyebrow lifted in surprise. Energy sickness? Astrid nodded. Energy sickness? Hannah looked to Astrid and then to Abby. It's what adventurers have started calling it. When you take in a higher concentration of energy before your body is ready for it. You'll start getting dizzy, and if you don't get away, then your body will collapse, Abby said to Hannah. If no one is able to pull you out at that point, then you'll just die, Frida said in a somber tone. As Abby was describing the symptoms of energy sickness, Claire was reminded of what happened to them after eating food that was beyond what they were able to eat. How is that even possible? Isn't the amount of energy that's out in the open the same wherever you go? Claire asked Abby. The idea of experiencing the same thing by just walking around was a thought she didn't like. Abby shook her head. That wouldn't make sense. If the energy in the air was the same, then how could there be monsters beyond the levels? She then looked at Astrid. The two of you must have ventured into areas meant for adventurers above level 20. I can't see that happening in an area like this. Shrugging her shoulders, Astrid said, I don't know either. From what we knew, the area should have been okay for anyone below level 20. I mean, if it wasn't, then we would have been eaten by a monster easily. But most of the monsters we'd encountered was at the level where we could handle them, though some of them were a struggle, Frida said, grimacing at the last part. We ended up having to buy new equipment due to some of the fights. Hearing another crack off in the distance, Claire casually looked at it. Probably another deer, she thought to herself before returning to pay attention to what Abby and the two women were talking about. What did the guild have to say? Candace asked Astrid. You did report that you got energy sickness, right? Astrid turned her attention to Candace. After experiencing it, we didn't want to risk running into any more monsters. Going back to the guild that we came from, they were informed that we had experienced an area with unusually high energy in the air. The guild was surprised by the information, their records not showing the energy being higher than expected, Peter said. Learning that the guild wasn't aware of the energy level was surprising to Claire. It's their simulation. Shouldn't they know? She thought to herself. Maybe Star and Moon restricted information from the simulated people in the game to make it more realistic.